Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry.
Hello, bonjour, guten tag, g'day mate, and any other regional dialects I can think of. Welcome to episode 7 of the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Great to be back. We've got a full show lined up for you this evening. But before we go into that, let's introduce you to my two co-hosts. First of all, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Josh Gorton. How you doing, Josh?
Not too bad, thanks, John. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Had a busy old time in the last couple of weeks, but all good. What have you been up to?
Not too much, really. Just busy with work and watching the Arsenal.
Whenever
as well.
I ask you what you've been up to, you always start with not too much. Your life is packed, right? Well, trying to get hold of you is difficult enough because you're either at Sky or you're doing your other jobs or something like that. So to say not too much, Josh, I don't really believe you.
Well, I don't like to overplay it or anything, John. I like to downplay these things, you know.
Of course. And on my left-hand side, the third part of this wheel, it's Mr. Neil Connor. How you doing, Neil?
Very well, thank you.
Now, I know you've been a busy bunny as well since the last time we met.
I have. Very busy at work. Lots going on. I've got a trip coming up to India within the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, very busy.
Is that work or pleasure?
That is work.
That is work. Mm-hmm. Blimey, be careful out there. Don't want to get the old Delhi belly, mate.
No, I'm quite used to it, and we get well looked after and put in a nice hotel.
You've been out there before? I
have. I think this is my third or fourth trip, so always very welcoming and enjoyable.
Good. Okay, something to look forward to then. Maybe we'll do a show while Neil's away, Josh, and see how we get on with just the two of us. See if we can cope as just a duo. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sounds like a good suggestion, that, John.
And if it goes well, we'll get rid of him permanently.
Be quite boring, I would imagine.
Okay, lads, as I mentioned, we have got a packed show this evening. Josh, I think the first thing we're probably due to discuss, really, is the recent European Championship.
Yes, indeed, John. Obviously, don't want to give too much away, but it was a very interesting tournament in Dortmund. It was held there for the very first time. A few big names were absent. Obviously, a few big names also departed the tournament earlier on.
Loads of shocks. Yeah,
I mean, it's quite surprising because, a lot of them were in the second round stage where it's best of 19. You wouldn't really foresee many shocks over that sort of format, but there were. It made it for a very interesting finals day. And I wouldn't say it was a surprise winner, but maybe a winner that we haven't seen on the big stage for quite a while.
Yeah, so looking forward to having a chat about the European Championship. Lots gone down there, and lots that's probably going to affect future tournaments. And Neil, we've also got a little special announcement. We've got a special guest also coming on the show. Twitter legend Oche Balboa.
We are indeed, and I'm looking forward to hearing Oche's rather frank views.
He calls a spade, does Oche?
He does. And there's also a couple of things I've noticed that he's posted football-wise on Twitter over the last few days, and I need to have a word with him about one or two of those.
It's going to kick off.
Interesting.
It's going to kick off. Really looking forward to having a chat with Oche. His Twitter feed's always worth following. Very knowledgeable, very funny at times as well. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat with Oche. Josh, what events are we going to be previewing that are coming up in the darting calendar?
Well, we've got an event going on right now, John. The World Series of Darts Finals has begun tonight in Vienna, so we'll be kind of previewing that. Hopefully ends on Sunday. Then we've got the Grand Slam of Darts, the big one, in Wolverhampton. That starts next weekend. And then looking ahead, hopefully, to the Players' Championship Finals at the end of the month, followed by the big one in December, the World Championship.
And Neil, I believe you'll be giving us some latest up-to-date odds for those tournaments.
Yeah, with the World Series of Darts, I think it's going to be what time we get to it, because sometimes because the matches are in play, they take out the outright odds. But let's see where we are. But yeah, certainly got some odds for the Grand Slam and also for the Players' Championship.
We'll also be covering all of our usual favourites. First up will be, and let's not put too much of an exclamation point at the end of it just now, gentlemen, but we will have our next instalment of Lord of the Board. And Josh, you stepped up to the Oche.
Is stepped up the right term to use?
Yeah, I think metaphorically, no, I didn't. It was a bit of a shambles, really. But we'll
come on to Lord of the Board, and then we will move on to probably my favourite part of the show, Neil. We're going to be having a fantastic round of challenge, Josh, this evening.
Yep, and Arsenal play Liverpool tomorrow, so there will be some extra edge.
Oh dear.
Well, Liverpool are big favourites for me. All the pressure's on them.
Okay, moving on. We will, of course, as we always do, cover some news items that you may have missed in the media over the last couple of days. Josh got a few news items for us this evening.
Yep, some interesting news regarding the Grand Slam of Darts, the BDO, the World Championship there, and a few other stories. So, yep, plenty to focus on.
From Josh, you put out a tweet on Twitter a couple of days ago asking for if any listeners have got any questions that they'd like to ask the panel. Have we had much response?
Yeah, we've had quite a decent response. I think a few questions generated quite a bit of debate on Twitter, actually, before we've even answered them. So we'll be focusing on them. But yeah, some good questions sent in, so we'll be answering them later on.
Well, that's all we've got coming up for you in the show this evening. Don't forget you can contact us on Twitter. At Josh's Dartistry is the username on Twitter. You can also check out Josh's Dartistry on Facebook. Just do a little search for us on Facebook and you'll find us. And you can also log on to the website. That's www.joshsdartistry.com. Lots of news on there. Josh, I've seen a couple of your reports going up on there over the last couple of days.
Yep, still awfully a busy time of year now. We're at the business end of the darting season, so trying to keep up to date with that and some big news that we'll be focusing on later on.
So that's how you can get in contact. Hopefully you're going to enjoy the show that we're going to bring to you. Don't, as I say, hesitate to get in contact with us. And looking forward to it, gents. You're listening to the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Don't forget you can check us out on Facebook, the Josh's Dartistry page. You can also follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry. And you can also go to our website, www.joshsdartistry.com, for all the latest news, blogs and information on the world of darts. Don't forget you can also call us and leave us a message on our voicemail box. That's 07739 738 329. That's 07739 738 329. Call our voicemail box, leave us a message, leave us a question, and we may play it on the show. Now back to the show.
Hi, this is Rod Studd from Sky Sports, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry podcast.
Right then, Josh, let's get into the most recent action that we've seen. Let's talk about the recent European Championship.
So we had the European Championship in Dortmund last weekend. Very entertaining event. As we mentioned in the introduction, obviously there were a few big names absent. No Gary Anderson, no Raymond van Barneveld, and a few big name exits. Michael van Gerwen lost in the second round to Steve West. We had Peter Wright going out to Simon Whitlock in the second round also. The likes of Daryl Gurney, Mensur Suljovic all falling in the first round, so that made for a very open tournament. And we saw James Wade win his first major title since 2014 and his first ranking major since 2011. So a real turn-up, but brilliant win for Wade.
Wonderful story, really, isn't it? Because obviously, little baby Arthur, he's only a week, 2 weeks old.
I think
something
3
like that.
weeks old, yeah.
And then to go and win a title like that, just wonderful for the whole family, really.
So I think we'd spoken a lot on previous episodes of the podcast about James Wade and A.D. Lewis, who were probably the two biggest players that had whose form had slightly dipped, and I think probably, as well as our listeners, we were all expecting at some point that those two will come back with a vengeance, and it's good to see that James has managed to do that.
Well, there's a lot of chat on social media this week now about Wade has made a case for the Premier League.
I was going to ask Josh that. So in terms of the rankings now, where has that left James Wade?
It's a big boost for Wade. I mean, he's up to world number 6 now, which is his highest position now for almost 2 years. He was facing the prospect of falling out the top 16, because I think he was about 11th in the world, but coming up softly the Grand Slam. He hadn't qualified for the Grand Slam prior to this weekend, and he reached the final there 2 years ago, so he was defending lots of prize money, but now he's automatically entered into the Grand Slam, back in the world's top 6, so he's definitely in Premier League contention.
Josh, why did we see so many big guns fall early doors? I know there were 2 of them who didn't enter the competition, but why did we see so many shocks early doors? Was it because they played particularly badly, or did they just come up against on the night, opposition that raised their game and managed to get the better of them?
I think it's a combination of both, really, John. I mean, Mensur Suljovic was a second seed. He lost to Christo Reyes. That was a massive shock, because Reyes had suffered 5 successive first-round exits, but Suljovic was ill, I believe, in Dortmund and didn't really produce his best. We saw Daryl Gurney go out the first hill to Ricky Evans, missed a lot of doubles at key stages, but Van Gerwen and Wright was more of a mystery. I mean, best of 19 legs, Van Gerwen's very tough to beat, but he just didn't get going against Steve West. He was 4-1 down, averaging 82. pulled it back to 5-all, played some good darts, and we thought then he'd kick on and win. But
Michael said on Twitter he was very disappointed with his performance, but he had the dignity to really, congratulate West on his win.
Yeah, West held his nerve superbly. I mean, obviously Van Goen came back, like I said, from 4-1 to 5-all, and I think everyone expected him to kick on then and close out victory. But West, he wasn't deterred, and he produced some really good darts under pressure. But he's claimed some big scalps over the last few years, West. He beat Taylor at the Grand Prix in the first round a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Beaten Wade at the Grand Prix. So he's got pedigree for knocking out the big guns. But Peter Wright's performance was a mystery. I mean, he changed his darts again since the Grand Prix against Simon Whitlock. He never looked comfortable. He averaged 85, Peter Wright. I mean, Whitlock missed about 25 darts at double Whitlock and still ran out a winner. So that shows how poor Peter Wright was.
Talk to me about Wade's route to the final, Josh. Tell me who he played and how he performed.
Okay, John. I mean, in his first round match, Wade took on Martin Schindler, which wasn't an easy game on paper. Obviously, before Wade and Schindler took to the Oche, it was Max Hopp in his first round match against William O'Connor. And we saw O'Connor really crumble under the pressure of the crowd. They were really hostile, the atmosphere. But Wade just took it all in his stride. His experience paid dividends. He won 6-3. Wasn't a great match in terms of standard, but Wade was always comfortable. Second round, he played Ricky Evans, who, as I mentioned, knocked out Darryl Gurney in the first round. Evans missed a lot of darts at double. Fought back to make it 8-5, but Wade took out 130, 121 finishes in the last two legs for successive 12 darters to win. The quarters, it really did heat up. He faced Gerwyn Price. Obviously, Gerwyn's had a good year since being knocked out of the Premier League. It was a brilliant, brilliant match. Very nip and tuck throughout. Price was leading 9-8. Wade forced the decider and Price missed 3 match darts in the decider. Wade held his nerve, and then it was a similar story in the semi-finals when he faced Max Hopp. Obviously in front of his home crowd, being roared on by the Dortmund crowd. Hopp was in control, led 9-5. Wade fought back well to reduce the arrears to 10-8. Hopp then missed 3 match darts again, so for the second successive round, Wade survived 3 match darts to reach the final against Simon Whitlock, and Whitlock's progression was also quite far from serene. I mean, he survived match darts against Joe Cullen, but it's such a gruelling day, the European Championship, because you've got 3 best of 19 matches, or the semis and finals are best of 21. But you got 3 long matches, and it took its toll on Whitlock. I mean, Whitlock averaged over 100 against Steve West in the quarters, averaged 88 in the final. Real big drop. Whereas Wade, it was typical James Wade. I think he didn't average above 96 in one match. But
His highest average was just short of 96 against Gerwyn Price, wasn't it?
Exactly, but he didn't average below 91. So that just illustrates the consistency of Wade. He's never someone who registers these massive ton-plus averages, but he's so consistent and so tough to beat. And when his opponents miss, he usually hits, and that's what he did in Dortmund. And
his lowest average of the tournament was in the final, 91.44.
Yeah, like I say, it wasn't a brilliant contest in terms of standard, but at 8-all, Wade kind of produced the goods. He produced 2 13 darters to move 10-8 up. And he did the job when he needed to. Wade's never been a man for big averages, as I said. He just usually beats the man in front of him, and that's what he did. Yeah,
you're right. I think the words you used there are absolutely bang on, Josh. You can only beat what's in front of you, and that's what Wade did. Neil, James Wade is our European champion. Thoughts on that?
No, I'm delighted. I've watched Wade a lot over the years, and he's always been a player that I've admired for the way that he digs out victories, and to see him do it in James Wade fashion was great to see. So it'll be interesting now to see whether this will now be the sort of springboard for him to get himself back right at the very top level, competing for the biggest major championships.
And Neil, doubly pleasing really for me, because I'm like you. I'm a big fan of Wade, and having followed his career over the years, I know he's dealt with a lot of stuff outside of the game as well.
Yeah, I think it's been well publicised that he's had some personal issues to deal with. So good to see him coming back from all these troubles and putting himself in the winner's chair again.
Yeah, definitely, I agree, Neil. It's great to see him so pleased as well after the game. I mean, he said, obviously, he's won 7 major titles before. Obviously, the UK Open, the World Match Play, the World Grand Prix, but he said he was really going to enjoy this one. And obviously, he's had a great month, obviously, celebrating the birth of his son Arthur, and now winning this, getting back in the world's top 6. So it's the world's a happy place for James Wade at the moment.
Okay, well, that concludes our roundup for the European Championships. And as I mentioned, James Wade is our winner. Let's move on, gentlemen, to the events that we've got coming up in the darting calendar. Now, obviously, in our last episode, we already previewed the World Series of Darts. That has obviously kicked off this evening. Josh, any news coming through so far about the World Series?
We've only had one match gone so far, John, but that's Raymond Smith, who's performed well on the BDO circuit when we've seen him in the past. He's knocked out former World Youth Champion Keegan Brown 6-3, so it'll be Raymond van Barneveld against Raymond Smith. So
Barney.
I think Raymond will win that one.
Oh yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. I've never seen you. Back against Barney.
It's Raymond versus Raymond. So. I think you're probably right, Josh.
I'm off the fence there.
Okay, so we'll obviously keep an eye on how the World Series progresses. Coming up after that, though, Josh, we go straight, and it comes thick and fast, doesn't it? We move straight on to the Grand Slam on the 10th of November.
Yeah, really looking forward to that, John. It's one of my favourite tournaments on the calendar. For the unique element with it being a cross-code event, the PDC and the BDO going head-to-head to that's going to be very exciting. We've got a qualifier coming up for the Grand Slam on Monday because there's still 8 places to be decided. A lot of big names still yet to qualify. Adrian Lewis, Darryl Gurney, amongst others. They can, of course, qualify by virtue of reaching the final at the World Series this weekend, but if they don't, they'll have to go through the qualifier. So I believe the draw will be at some point early next week, so very excited for the Grand Slam.
I think a little bit later on in the show, we're going to, when we speak to our friend Oche Balboa, it'd be good to get his insight on who he thinks is going to have a chance, particularly out of the BDO side, Josh.
Yeah, Oche is very knowledgeable about the BDO, and obviously Glenn Durrant's the main man. He reached the quarterfinals there last year. He's a 2-time reigning world champion in the BDO circuit, but there's a few players who've had really consistent years on the floor, so I'm interested to hear Oche's views on that.
Josh, just backpedaling ever so slightly, and I'm going to put you on the spot slightly here and test your knowledge. Obviously, last episode we had an interview with Robbie Green.
We did indeed.
Who was making his return that coming weekend in the Players'
Championship in Barnsley.
In Barnsley. Do you know how he got on at all?
I believe he lost his first game on the opening day on Saturday. He won a match on Sunday, which is great, and then lost to Carl Anderson, who was superb that day. I think Carl beat him 6-3. And averaged over 100. But Robbie was pleased to get back in action. I think he said to us he wasn't expecting a great deal.
Yeah.
It was more just testing the water.
Yeah.
Obviously, so now he'll be going to the World Championship qualifier in Milton Keynes to try and get his place at the Worlds. I'm not sure if he's entered the Grand Slam or not, but listen, he's got the ability on a one-off day, but I think he struggles at the moment with his knee, obviously.
Well, I did. When the tournament was taking place, I did have my eye on his Twitter feed over the weekend, and he did post quite a lot about how the knee was still giving him a bit of pain, and he perhaps wasn't at his best. And I think sometimes he thinks he's pushing himself a little bit too hard and is expecting a little bit too much. But listen, for me, it's just great to see him back on the floor again.
Oh, definitely. He's a great player, great character for the game, and it's good to see him back, and hopefully he'll go from strength to strength from here. And
then, as I say, thick and fast, they come on November the 23rd. We've got the Players' Championship finals.
Yep, always a really exciting event in Minehead. It's also quite a unique event because obviously the seedings are determined by their positions on the Players' Championship Order of Merit. So you've got Ian White's going to be the top seed this year in Minehead, whereas Michael Van Gerwen's third seed. We've got a potential tie between Van Gerwen and Silovic in the second round.
Ian White, again, just going back to what I was mentioning earlier, Neil, about the lineup for the Premier League. Ian White is another name that I've seen bandied around by a lot of darts fans for possible inclusion in the Premier League next season.
He's a tough competitor, and I think he's performed very well on the floor this year.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if I think he did win one event, or he was certainly in the finals.
He's won a Pro Tour and he's won a European Tour event, Dutch Darts Championship.
He's certainly put himself in contention and got over the line in a couple. So, definite candidate.
I think Ian, though, he needs to perform on TV. I mean, he reached the News of the World final about 20 years ago now, but in terms of the PDC, he's never reached a major semi-final. And obviously the Premier League is a stage event. It's a big, the performance on television often dictates whether you get selected or not, rather than the Pro Tour form. So I think Ian needs a big run at maybe the Grand Slam, the Players' Championships or the Worlds to get over the line for the Premier League spot. But listen, he performed superbly on the floor events this year, so he's definitely up there in contention.
Josh, are there any other tournaments we want to have a quick look at before we move on? I think the Worlds is probably a little bit too far away. We can come back to that another time, but is there any other upcoming events?
No, I think that's all on the PDC side. Obviously, the BDO circuit, we had the Northern Ireland Open last weekend, which I'll touch on later on in the news section, but that's it in terms of the PDC, but coming thick and fast now. Excellent.
Well, that concludes our roundup.
I feel happy, won't you call me on the telephone? In the morning, won't you call me on the telephone?
Call the boys on 07739 738 329. That's 07739 738 329 and leave them a message.
Right then, gents, it's now time for this.
Cool, what are the odds?
Okay, let me hand you over to our resident odds checker, Neil Connor.
Thanks, John. as the World Series of Darts is in progress, a lot of the bookmakers aren't offering odds for the outrights at the moment. So I won't be bringing any odds in terms of the World Series. So we'll move swiftly to.
I think we probably covered the odds going into the tournament on the last episode.
Yeah,
didn't we?
I think we did. Yeah. So moving swiftly to the Grand Slam of Darts, which Josh touched on earlier in his preview. So tournament winner odds brought to you by Sporting Bet. The favourite, as expected, Michael van Gerwen, 5-4 on. Gary Anderson, 5-1. Peter Wright, 8-1. And world champion Rob Cross, 8-1. Now, in the last episode, I think we said about Mensah Suljovic and how he's performed. He's 20-1 for the Grand Slam of Darts. Looking a bit further down, our recent European Championship winner, James Wade, 50-1. Very generous odds if he can, as I say, if he can.
Be interested to know what he was before he won.
Yeah, but if he can use that victory as a springboard, 50-1 looks very generous to me. And then we get into the BDO players. So Glenn Durant at 66-1, and then looking down a bit further. At 100-1, we've got Ratowski, who's been in good form, Clayton and McGeaney, all 100-1, and Max Hopp as well. Then further down, Unterbuchner, again, someone we've touched on previously, 150-1, and the outsider, who we mentioned in the last episode, Adam Smith-Neale, 500-1.
Okay, Neil, let's fast forward then on to November the 23rd for the Players' Championship.
As always, the favourite is Michael van Gerwen. Now, for some reason, and I'll be interested on Josh's thoughts on this, Peter Wright is second favourite at 6-1, and Gary Anderson is 7-1. So for the Grand Slam, Anderson is second favourite and Wright third favourite, but there's a reversal with Sporting Bet for the Players' Championship. Any reason for that, Josh? I know that Gary hasn't played all the Players' Championship events, but any other reasons you can think of for that?
I mean, yeah, you're right, Neil. He's not played in every event. He's still won quite a few of them, Anderson. I think he's 6th seed in Minehead, so he's still done pretty well considering he hasn't played every event. But I think it's all dependent on the draw. I mean, I'm not off the top of my head, I can't remember who Anderson had in the first round. But
who's the current holder?
The current holder is Michael van Gerwen.
All right, so that's not affecting it then.
So he's 3rd seed this year. Like I say, Ian White's the top seed because he's been really consistent in the Pro Tour events. Van Gerwen hasn't played every one this year, so it's very draw dependent. But I think with Anderson, you mentioned about the Grand Slam. He's never won it before, but he said in a recent interview with Sky, Anderson, that the Grand Slam is the one he wants to win most. It's his favourite tournament, so maybe that's a factor as well in the odds.
Okay, so for Michael van Gerwen to repeat last year's victory in the Players' Championship, it's even money. You mentioned Ian White, Josh. He is 28-1. So reasonable odds for him. And then looking a bit further down again, Ratowski at 66-1, had back-to-back victories in the Players' Championship the weekend before last. And you got some good players with good value. So you got Darren Webster at 100-1. We all know when the Demolition Man gets going, he can produce high averages and high quality performances. And Steve Beaton, who's come into a little bit of form recently, also 100-1.
So I fancy someone for a run, Adrian Lewis. He's been a bit unlucky. He lost in the first round of the Euros to Chisnell, who took out an amazing 157. But Adrian Lewis is on the right side of the draw. Could face Ratowski in the second round, admittedly. But I fancy Lewis could have a good run here.
I also think with Lewis, he's probably looking at Wade and what Wade's done in the Euros. Two players who are coming off the back of similar form in terms of missing out on last year's Premier League and looking to get back into the higher echelons, and that might sort of spur Lewis on to try and achieve the same.
Yep. So if you fancy a punt on Adrian Lewis with Sporting Bet, he is 25-1.
Neil, any other odds for us?
No, I think during the next episode we'll start to look forward to both the PDC and BDO World Championships.
Wonderful stuff. Well, if you fancy a bet, there's a little bit of inside information for you. Please remember to gamble responsibly, and of course, gentlemen, when the fun stops, stop.
Cool, what are the odds?
Okay, welcome back to the show. As we mentioned at the top of the show, we've got a very special guest on the line this evening. Been wanting to get him on the show for a couple of episodes now. Twitter legend himself. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Oche Balboa. How you doing, Oche?
Not bad, mate. Not bad at all.
Good. Now, do I call you do I call you Oche, or is it Mr. Balboa, or what?
You can call me Chris.
I can call you Chris. Excellent, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris. That'll be a little bit alien to me because I'm used to referring to you around the table as Oche.
Yeah, okay. Oche or Chris will do.
Chris, I detect a bit of an accent there. Where are you from, buddy?
From Birmingham, it's a strong accent. I'll realise that when I did a podcast with someone else.
So where is your footballing affinity, Chris? Is it the Villa?
God, no.
No, I've said that deliberately to provoke you. So it's Baggies, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm an Albion fan, yeah.
Okay, so
from all my sins, yeah.
Yeah, the less said about that at the moment, the better, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Listen, Chris, I'm with you, buddy. As a West Brom fan, I'm sure you've felt the kind of suffering that I've felt as a Spurs fan for many, many years. I'm sat with a Liverpool fan and a Gooner to my right who have been spoiled over the years, so I feel your pain, brother.
Yeah, I know. But at least you're in the top six. We're struggling to be in the top six of the Championship, so yeah.
I'm sure they'll come good, mate. They normally do.
What's your take on Darren Moore, Chris?
I like him, but
Yeah.
he needs to learn a bit more tactically.
Yeah. See, I think when he took over it, they obviously had that decent run, and I think he was, he seems to be a motivator, and people like him. But I do wonder whether he tactically is aware enough to get them out of that league.
Keeps playing a 3-4-1-2 formation.
Yeah.
And you keep playing a 3-4-1-2 formation, and it's not working.
Okay, Chris. So, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the show is because you are, for me, on Twitter, a bit of a beacon when it comes to all things darts. It doesn't matter whether it's BDO or PDC. You've always got something to say. You always create good debate and good comment. Before we get into the nitty gritty of the darts, I just wanted to ask you about yourself. Really, why darts? What's your darting background, and what makes you so passionate about darts?
I don't have a darting background. None of my family are really into it or haven't been into it. And it's just come spur of the moment thing, really. I was watching Grand Slam 2008. I used to watch the Worlds, but I used to be like a fair weather fan. But when I watched the Grand Slam of darts in 2008, I thought, I'll get into this sport. It looks pretty good. Yeah. And that's what's happened.
So just the sort of typical casual armchair fan and love the sport. And
I just watched the World, didn't really pay much attention to the divide. I just knew there was 2 World Championships, and I knew Taylor used to win everything on one of them and everything like that. But in 2008, it sort of changed, and 2007 as well. From 2008, it sort of changed a bit, and I was learning a bit more about darts. Took a bit of time about learning about darts and different things like that, and it's come on from there, really.
What about you as a player, Chris? Do you play at all?
I used to play. I played in the Grand Slam qualifier in 2011. But,
wow, we've got an expert, lads.
Yeah, but now I don't play at all. I just struggle to throw a dart. Don't know if it's dartitis or can't be bothered-itis, but I don't know.
Well, if you've listened to our podcast in the past, particularly our Lord of the Board section, you'll know that the three men around this table are pretty poor at chucking a dart as well, mate. So don't worry too much about that.
I'm probably worse now. But I'm a strange one because I'm more of a watcher than I am a player. Well, obviously, even though I go to a load of BDO events, but I prefer to stand there and watch rather than play.
Some people would call you a voyeur.
Yes, I am a voyeur.
Steady. It's a family show. Steady.
Yeah, be careful.
Chris, listen. When I read your Twitter account, you comment on both codes of the game, really, and more so outside of that. But I do see you have a lot more to say, probably about the BDO than the PDC. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, that's true, because there's not many people that speak about BDO darts, which is quite disappointing, but that's the BDO's fault, really. And so I try and fill the gap a little bit by letting everybody know what's going on in the BDO world and what's going behind the scenes, if I know information from people and so forth.
Do you think that's symptomatic of some of the problems that the BDO have experienced over the last 10 years?
Yes, I do. The BDO in social media has been non-existent. It's actually getting a bit better now under Jacqueline.
Yeah.
And who is it now doing it? Oh, I can't remember who they're doing the Twitter account, but they're actually doing really, really well with it now, and it's looking really good. And hopefully, when we go to 2019, it'll be something where the video will actually be better on a social media thing, where people identify with events, people identify with players, and they'll get a bit more recognition as well, because they don't really get that. When people play well, people go, well, I don't know much about this certain player or this player.
Yeah.
So really, the information is there, but you just need to force people to it.
Chris, obviously you mentioned the BDO there and hopefully improvements being made in 2019. Earlier this week it was announced that the BDO have a 3-year deal with Eurosport, obviously to televise the World Masters, World Trophy and the World Championship at the Lakeside. Just how important is that for the future of the BDO? It's
very important, very important. It's a good deal because all three events are on television for the next 3 years, and usually when 2 or 3 of these events come up, they're scrambling around for a broadcast down. It's very dodgy. And sometimes it's on. World Masters was on the stream last month, and it's really good for the players because they know they're going to be on telly. Whether or not the production is what we want for World Championships like Channel 4 and BBC have in the past, I don't know. But I hope Eurosport give the Lakeside coming up with the gravitas it deserves.
I think with Eurosport, Chris. I cast my mind back to the trophy a couple of months ago when it was broadcast on Free Sport, and there was a lot of criticism of the production levels, some of the graphics and some of the introductions and stuff that went on. I personally, I think with the kind of track record Eurosport have got with a lot of other sports, I'm hoping that it's going to be. I'm not suggesting perhaps PDC and Sky Sports levels, but certainly a major improvement on what we've seen recently.
All I want from Eurosport is a presenter, interviews, production that looks really good, and you think, yeah, it's a World Championships. Okay, it's not PDC level, but yeah, it's a World Championship, and give the players the credit they deserve, because a lot of the things with the World Masters and the World Trophy, as you said on Free Sports, has been really rubbish, and it just smacks of amateurism.
Yeah.
And it's just not right at all for the players.
I noticed on Twitter a couple of days ago, Bobby George was quite vocal, which has surprised me really, because Bobby's been obviously part of their broadcast team for a number of years when they've been broadcasting on other channels. But he was very critical of the BDO the other day.
Yeah, I don't blame him, because I think a lot of people have been very critical of the BDO. People you see as BDO-centric sort of people have been very critical. It's just frustration because of the TV events. I mean, look how long it's took for Lakeside's 60 odd days away, and they've just got a TV deal. It's just it's frustration more than anything. But if onwards and upwards, hopefully this Eurosport deal could be a springboard that we need.
No, hopefully it should be, Oche. But just looking ahead to the Grand Slam, you mentioned there that was like the tournament that really got you into darts, and obviously that's on the horizon next week in Wolverhampton. There's been a lot of debate about Lisa Ashton's omission from the Grand Slam this year. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I thought Lisa Ashton should have been involved in the competition. It would have been a great marketing point for the BDO and for the PDC. It would have been a lot of emphasis would be shown on her, see what she would have done. And it was a missed opportunity, really. It's a bit disappointing, really, because she deserves to be there. I know a lot of it. It's split opinion, really. She should be there, and she should be given a chance. Give her a good chance and see what she can do. She might improve. You don't know, but it's a missed opportunity.
No, I agree with you there. And obviously, we don't really know. Obviously, until the draw's done, we won't have a better idea of maybe which BDO players can progress. But obviously, Glenn Durrant's the main man. He's going to be the one who's carrying the BDO's hopes. But obviously, you've got a good knowledge of all the BDO circuit and all the 8 players competing. Who would you back to maybe progress from the group stages or have a good run this year from the BDO, apart from maybe Glenn Durrant?
The one I think he's got a great chance is Michael Unterbuchner, because I think he's really, really, really solid player who's very difficult to beat. You need a really good performance to beat him, and he's really improving on TV as well. I mean, okay, he only got to the last 16 of the Masters, but he averaged 101 and lost. In the previous round, he averaged 98.
Yeah.
So he's getting the averages and he's getting experience, and I think he could be. And he's got rock solid action. I think he's the one that I think is most likely, aside from Durrant, that will progress to the last 16 at least.
That's interesting, because we'd spoken about him on one of our previous podcasts. So looking forward to the Lakeside and the World Championships. Where would your money be, Chris, for the both the men's and ladies?
Durant, I think he's obviously the clear favourite because of his track record at Lakeside, and when he's on song, he's a lot better than a lot of the video players. But another one who I think played well at the World Masters, but didn't only got to the quarterfinals was Scott Waits. I think Scott Waits could be Scott Waits' year this year. I think I saw a lot of him, which I thought, yeah, he's getting back to his best now, and I think he could be the one to watch out for.
Yeah, and with Wes Newton, and how do you think he'll fare now that he's qualified?
With Wes, I've watched him at the World Masters floor event, and he played okay, but he lost against Eddie Mordecai. He's played okay on the event. I don't think you really expect him to do much, like the old thing, because he's been in the PDC top 10. I think he's going to tear up the video. I don't think that's going to happen, but he's going to be. It depends on the Premier round actually, because Andy Hamilton's in it, Paul Hogan's in it, Adam Smith-Nill's going to be in the Premier round. They're going to be tough. It's going to be quite tough, that Premier round.
Yeah.
It's fairly open apart from Durant and everything. There's always going to be a surprising one for one player. Unterbuchner was last year, and Smith got to the final a couple of years ago, Jeff Smith. So there's always going to be a surprise element to it. So who knows what will happen. And
what about the ladies, Chris? Who are you back in there?
Well, you can't see past Ashton because she's had a good year. She averaged like 90, I think, in the World Masters. At 90 odd, and got the form there, and 4 times world champion. Dieter, I would love Dieter to win it because Dieter is brilliant, but it may, I can't see her winning it this year. I hope I'm wrong. Fallon, she played really well at the World Trophy, but she went out early in the World Masters. I'm not so sure she could win it. Anastasia, I don't. Anastasia and Lorraine, I think I've got a good chance as well. So I think it's going to be one of those 5 players. I think will win it. Probably Aileen as well.
Excellent.
Got a chance, but I'll go with Ashton.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's hard to look past Lisa Ashton. But looking a little bit ahead now, I read an interview this week with Mark McGeaney talking about the fact he'll be wanting to go to Q School next year. Yeah. And obviously Glenn Durrant kind of hinted at the prospect. I think he retracted that after the BDO TV deal. But would you be quite concerned if McGeaney and Durrant, obviously the top two in the BDO, both went to Q School? What would that mean for the BDO?
Well, everybody can go to Q School now and come back. And come back if they don't get a tour card, which is great news. But it's up to the player. Fair play to the players if they want to go and have a shot at the PDC. There's no real. Is it a shame for the BDO? Yes, because they're the 2 best players on the floor and on TV and so forth. You've got to look at the BDO now as a bit of a feeder towards the PDC Pro Tour, and it's another way. It's another way of getting up to the PDC ranks. But I don't think. I mean, BDO's survived with big players going. It will survive again in some form if Durant and McGeaney go over and win the tour cards. I think whoever's left will take off the baton and we call good averages and be good force to reckon with. And BDO will be fine. The BDO wouldn't want them to go, but they give them the option that they can go. But they might not win a tour card.
Chris, just turning our attention now to the PDC. Obviously, we're sort of approaching the end of the year now. A couple of tournaments coming up before the big one, obviously at Ali Pali. Just give me a couple of names for you over the last 9 months who've really shone in the PDC, and then just have a little comment on. Obviously, the World Series starts this evening. Maybe give us your tip for that and a tip for the Worlds as well.
Okay. Well, Van Gerwen and Anderson have been the 2 shining lights of the PDC in the last year. Yeah. There's a few players that I've been looking at it, and there's a few players that people are suggesting for the Premier League, like Darren Webster, Joe Cullen, and so forth. They need to do a bit more. As regards to floor form, it's Christoph Radowski has been superb.
He's been a real emergence, hasn't he?
Yes, it's been fantastic since the World Masters win. It's quite strange that he didn't win a tour card in Euroschool, and that's one of the mysteries for me is that he didn't win one. But he's won 3 PDC tour events, which are really hard to win, and he deserves his place at the Grand Slam. Didn't
he win back to back last week or the week before?
Yeah,
Saturday and
Sunday. Yeah. I mean, that's a phenomenal achievement.
Exactly.
I mean, the bloke wouldn't have played if all the tour card holders turned up. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's just weird. But yeah, he's going to get his tour card this year. So onwards and upwards for him. He's a quality player, and he might be one to look out for in the Worlds if he translates that onto the big stage.
So yeah, as I mentioned, Chris, World Series final starting tonight. Who are you backing on that one, buddy?
Well, Van Gerwen's there too. Van Gerwen got knocked out early in the European Championships, and I think he's there to prove a point. And I can't see past him at the moment. I can't see past him. Anderson's got a chance. Peter Wright's got a chance. I can't see any dark horses to winning this. Darryl Gurney may get to the final. I don't know. I'm not. I'm off the top of my head. I don't know what the draw pans out. But I can't see past Van Gerwen.
He is fallible though, Van Gerwen, isn't he? I mean, he has had a few shock knockouts in tournaments over the years, and when I know it's very easy to sort of compare him to Taylor in his pomp, but he does tend to have these sort of strange shock knockouts a bit more consistently than Phil did when he was at the top of the game.
He was, yeah. I mean, Phil Taylor lost when he was in his pomp. He lost to like Andy Calaby and Kevin Painter in 2001. And so forth. He had some shock defeats as well, but because there's more tournaments than there was when Phil Taylor was in his first pomp.
Yeah. It probably stands out a little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, it does, yeah. And Van Gerwen, he's lost to players that are very, very capable. I mean, Steve West, he's been another one who's been superb on the PDC Tour ever since he moved from the BDO. He's come from nothing, but gradually built himself up, and he's a capable top 32, perhaps top 16 player. There are players out there ready to take the chance, but Van Gerwen, he's always susceptible to a defeat, and wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't win the Worlds again. It would not surprise me.
So is he not your tip for the Worlds this year then?
I think Anderson will win it. I've got a feeling that Anderson will win it. I think Anderson will make it 3-2 against 3-2, if you know what I mean, with the World Championship wins.
Yeah. I
just think Anderson, with the big events, I think Anderson's got the bit between his teeth. I think, I can't see past them two, to be fair.
Okay then. So before we wrap up, Chris, Hull away tomorrow. What
back to the business, Neil.
What are you saying?
Hull away.
Yeah.
We should win.
Yeah, they're second from bottom, I think. So.
Yeah, because they're struggling. They haven't got many. Their team isn't that good. They got a couple of good players, but I think we should win, but we'll probably get beat. So I'll go for a draw.
Okay, Oche, for those who perhaps don't follow you on Twitter, just remind the listeners how they can follow you on Twitter. What's your handle, buddy?
Yes, my handle is at Oche Balboa 1.
Excellent stuff, excellent. I, as I said at the top of the show, I'd always recommend following Oche. His Twitter feed is full of fantastic knowledge about the game. He's always good for a comment and an opinion. Chris, listen, it's been absolutely lovely to talk to you. I've been wanting to get you on the show for quite a while, so thanks for coming to take the time and talk to us this evening, mate.
Not the problem at all. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
You're listening to Josh's Dartistry. Don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook by going to the Josh's Dartistry page. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry, or go to the website www.joshisdartistry.com for the latest news and insight to the world of darts. You can also leave us a comment or a question via our voicemail box. Just call 07739 738 329. Leave us a message and we may play it on air. Now back to the show.
Right then, welcome back to the show. It's now time for our interactive part of the show, where we test our darting skills. This is Lord of the Board.
Six darts without hitting the target.
That's a three! Who's your favourite dance player?
That is our new Lord of the Board theme tune, gentlemen, which has been kindly made by our musical producer, Mr. Colin Church. What do you reckon of that, Josh?
Big fan, John. Better than my darts, anyway.
Do you like that, Neil? What do you reckon?
I do like it, yeah.
It's got a sort of Cuban feel to it.
I think I heard some of Josh's misses mentioned during that intro as well.
Thank you, Neil.
Right, Josh, we can't get away from the fact that this week is your attempt. Now, we've been waiting for your attempt for Lord of the Board for many, many weeks. I did mention on the last show that I felt you were at a bit of an advantage to the rest of us because you've had more practice
I'm
time.
not so sure. I think mentally, John, it just adds to the pressure and the strain. I think I'd have been better just going straight in.
I disagree. I think you've had bags of practice. You knew what you were up against. You know that Neil sits atop the league table with 16, I think you got, didn't you, Neil?
I did get 16. And I think he also claimed on the last show, or maybe privately outside of the show, that he felt that he would comfortably motor past.
I don't think comfortably was used, but I think...
You were extremely confident.
You were confident, definitely.
I'd say that touching on a bit of arrogance.
Yeah, borderline.
Fine line, Josh. Between confidence and arrogance.
Should we just play this then and get it over with?
Life lesson for you there.
Right, that's it then. Come on in, let's have a listen. Let's see how Josh got on when Josh and I visited Church Studios for his attempt at Lord of the Board. Okay, and welcome back to Church Studios. I'm here with our musical engineer, Mr. Colin Church. How are you, Colin?
Yeah, fine, thanks, John. Yeah.
Good. Lovely to see you again. And I'm here with the man himself, Josh Gorton. Now, Josh, you're about to attempt your go at Lord of the Board. We've been anticipating this moment for a long time. It's currently about 10:30 in the morning. Did you get a good night's sleep?
I was awake all night, John. I could not sleep. It was like the night before Christmas.
Now, there's been a lot of chat about your attempts. Obviously, you've had quite a longer period of practice than the rest of us. You've known this has been coming up for a while. I would imagine you've been at home firing arrows into the board for quite a while now in preparation for this.
Yeah, I've taken 3 weeks off work for this, John, so I hope it's worth it.
Just talk us through your darts, Josh. I'm just looking at the darts that you've got in your hand. Tell us about your darts.
Well, they're Raymond van Barnevelde's target darts. So
Of course they are.
So they should do the trick, I'm hoping.
Okay, and I've just watched you have a little practice. The final 3 darts that you threw in practice, you did hit the 1, the 2 and the 3 immediately. So I'm expecting big things here.
Well, I think I might have peaked too early, that's my concern, so we'll just have to see.
So let's remember, Neil currently sits atop of the leaderboard with 16.
He hasn't mentioned it a lot.
He hasn't mentioned it a lot. Do you fancy your chances of beating that today?
I'll tell you in 10 minutes.
You'll tell us in 10 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to commentate along with Colin. Colin's going to keep a score as we go through of how many darts have been thrown, just so that we get an accurate score and representation. Okay, Josh, unfortunately there's no walk-on music and there's no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Josh Gorton.
Thanks very much, John.
Yeah, absolute silence from the crowd. Okay, Josh, are you ready?
I think so, yeah.
In that case, please start your engines and let's play darts. That is not the one. Neither's that. And that's the one. So we got hung up a little bit on his first 2 darts. Treble 18 and double 18, I think there, Josh.
Good score.
Okay, so 1 scored. Here we go. 3 darts gone. That's the 2. Is that
Just
the 2? Just inside the wire, I believe. We're gonna check that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's just inside
You
the
look
wire.
like 17 from my angle.
That's the 2. So he's aiming for the 3, bottom of the board. Here we go.
Number 3.
19. And that is the 3. He nails the 3 with his final dart of that go. So how many darts are we at, Colin? 6?
6 darts so far.
6 darts, here we go. Aiming for number 4. Just outside. That's the 4. And that's not the 5, that's the double 20. Just wide of the 5. 9 darts gone, here we go. We're looking for number 5, Josh. It's a good start. That's not the 5. Neither's that. And neither's that. That's
a great score.
Lovely group scoring on the 20, but unfortunately Josh is going for the 5. So, okay, 12 darts, Colin, am I right?
Yeah, 12 darts gone.
12 gone. We're still looking for the 5. Here we go. That is the 5.
13, I think.
Yeah, that's just outside. And that's not the 6. Unfortunately, on Colin's board, the 6 has fallen off of the board, so it it can be quite deceiving and a bit disorientating. Anyway, here we go. We're looking for the 6, Josh. That's outside. That's the 6. That is the 7. Good recovery. Great recovery.
18 gone.
18 darts gone. He has nailed the 7. We are now looking for number 8, Josh. Here we go. Miss. Miss. And miss. Good grouping again on the 11. But unfortunately, Josh, you're aiming for the 8. So 3 wasted darts there. Colin, how many darts have we had now?
That's the 21.
21 darts gone. Josh is looking for the 8. Here we go. That's the 8. It's not the 9. That's the 9. Good. Good recovery. Excellent recovery. Okay, Josh, we are now looking for the 10. Colin, we've had
24, 6
6 to go. And we're looking for the 10. Here we go. That's the 10. That's not the 11. That's not the 11 either. That is a treble 8 by the looks of it.
Yeah.
3 darts left. And we're looking for the 11. Here we go. That's not.
Oh dear.
We've had an explosion.
That's unlucky.
Oh,
And that's not the 11, that's the 16. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Gorton scores 10.
disappointing.
Josh, bring it in. I've got to say you're right. The word disappointing is appropriate. How are you feeling?
Yeah, too many darts on the wide. It didn't quite find the right target. It's hard. It's so difficult when you're going for one number and you just keep missing. It's difficult. Usually on a dartboard, you miss one, you go for a different target. That's what got to me. I think too many visits of nothing. You
did get hung up on a few occasions, especially with your groupings. I mean, you had a lovely 3 darts at the 20, but unfortunately at the time you were aiming for the 5.
Yeah, I'll be playing later on, aiming for the triple 20. I'll be hitting the 5 all the time. It'd be so slow, wouldn't it?
Well, you've only barely beaten Jordan's score.
Oh dear. What did you get?
I can't remember what I got. I think I got, I don't know, 11,
Yeah,
12,
you've
11.
got conveniently confused over your score, haven't you?
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Well, Neil was 16.
Neil was 16. I'm sure I got double figures, didn't I?
I can't remember, John.
I can't
You'll
remember.
have to listen back to your podcast.
I was that good, I can't remember. Yeah, we'll listen back to the podcast. But the fact remains, Josh, unfortunately Neil remains top of the league table.
He'll be enjoying that. He'll be enjoying that later, don't worry about that.
I'm disappointed in you, I have to say. I did back you.
All the big build up.
I did back you to take this, and unfortunately you've let us all down. So
apologies.
And now we're gonna have to sit through the next sort of 10 minutes of the show now while Neil talks about how great he is again. Okay, well, disappointingly, that's all we've got now from Church Studios. Colin, once again, thank you for your company.
You're welcome.
Josh, thank you.
Thank you, John.
And let's throw it back to the studio. Right, yes, welcome back to the studio. Neil, you weren't there, unfortunately. You couldn't join us the other day when we recorded this at Church Studios. That's the first time you've heard that audio back. What do you make of it?
Quite poor, if I'm honest. And you say I wasn't there. Can you imagine how low it would have been if I was there? He never got any momentum.
No
going.
momentum
He was
whatsoever.
like miss.
Yeah.
Oh, well done, miss.
Yeah.
Well done, miss. I think there was only one point where he got 2 consecutive darts. So and to throw his dart and break it in that last throw,
And he did break it as well. Afterwards, the stem was gone.
A bit of a hissy fit. Says it all, really.
Josh, talk to us about your performance.
Oh, sorry, were you talking there, Neil? No, listen, it wasn't good, was it? I mean, it was typical. You were there, John. You were a witness. After I threw before and afterwards, I beat the score
Before and
both
after,
times.
you were excellent. He was really good. But when the lights came on and we hit record, went to pieces.
I'm a floor player, John. I'm not a big stage player.
Absolutely went to pieces.
But can I just say, you're 11 or 12. I listened back to the last podcast when you said you got 11
we don't
or
need to
12.
mention
Hang
this.
on.
We don't need to mention
But
this.
listen, you've said how many 180s you reckon you've had?
I've hit 9 180s.
9
before.
180s. I've beat him in the pub without really being put under any pressure, and I've
hang on,
smashed you on Lord of the Board.
That dartboard
so
we
I'm
played
beginning to think that 9 180s. Well, let's not say what I think.
I'm not saying I follow up with anything good, but
Are you questioning that my score then? I got 11 or 12. I think.
10 of them.
8.
No.
8.
No, I think he's right. I think I did get
I
8.
listened back to the last podcast.
Josh is sitting here, arms folded, looking very defensive.
Can I just let you in on something as well now, right? Something that he told me afterwards when we were having a coffee downstairs. He told me, right, that because he thought you were going to be in attendance for his recording, while he's been practicing for the last few weeks, he's had his sister...
No, my mum.
Oh, your mum, standing in the room with him, shouting abuse at him as he throws the darts because he thought he was going to get heckled so badly by you and me. He tried to recreate the scene of someone heckling him while he was throwing.
So he's obviously taken the lesson of the great Tiger Woods, who had his dad screaming during his backswing.
I want to know what exactly your mum was shouting at
No,
you.
if you've met my mum, you know she's not the sort of person who shouts abuse. It was more just tittle tattle talk, but it was off-putting enough for me to miss.
Anyway, I don't think Josh is the person you'd want on your fifth penalty in a penalty shootout. Let's put it like
I'm a goalkeeper.
Anyway, listen, Josh, so it's not all doom and gloom. Listen, you're second.
Yeah,
You're
but
second in the leaderboard.
I underperformed, but listen, I'll take that top 4 spot.
Okay, well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Josh, second place with 10 points. Only the second person to finish with double figures then in that case.
Yeah, and they're still not great. I missed my last 5 darts. That was poor, really.
I know. You had an opportunity to sort of get to the mid-teens there, and you threw it away. But as I say, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Josh Gorton scores 10. If you'd like to have a go at Lord of the Board, get in contact with us. We can set up a recording. We can either get you doing it on the phone, or you can record it yourself and send it in to us. It does obviously rely on what we like to call here on the JDP a bit of trust darts. But yeah, if you want to have an attempt at Lord of the Board, please do get in contact and we can arrange that for you.
That's the ball. That's the ball.
6 darts without hitting the target.
That's a 3. Who's very past that?
Come on,
That's the 8. Yeah, that's the 8. That's the 9. Oh, it's just underneath in the 15.
Wayne Mardle, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
And we're back. Okay, Neil, what time is it?
It's my time.
Challenge Josh.
Right then, here we are. Challenge Josh. 15 questions where we test our resident darts expert's knowledge on all things darts. How are you feeling today, Josh?
Well, I'm not quite sure what to expect as usual, but I'm sure we'll find out in a few moments.
I'm sure it'll be fine. Right then, let me, without further ado, hand over to resident quizmaster, Mr. Neil Connor.
Thank you very much, John. And I have to give you some credit because the theme for this episode you came up with when we discussed this earlier in the week.
Yes, I did.
Josh has actually been probing me a little bit this evening to try and get some clues as to what this is about.
I hope you're giving nothing away. I didn't want him doing any sort of research.
This is my chance to show him up. There's absolutely no way whatsoever I will...
I can do that without your intervention, Neil. Don't worry about that.
Okay, so let's get moving. So this week's subject is the late, great Sid Waddell. So, again, we've got 15 questions. I'm going to read you 15 quotes from Sid.
Head is in the hands already, ladies and gentlemen.
And I won't be mentioning any player's name as I read the quote.
That'd be my
he
job.
will refer to, the darts player in question will be referred to as he or she. And what I need you to do is tell me the darts player that Sid was referring to.
Now, Josh, there's a little caveat in here that I'd just like to add before Neil gives you the first question.
Mm-hmm.
All I'll say is listen to the question very carefully.
Yeah.
Because the clue is in the question.
For the majority of cases.
For most of them.
Yeah.
For most
So
of them. It might
obviously
get a little bit harder.
I need to keep 1 or 2 in the back pocket.
Yeah, because we can't even get in 15 out of 15. That's just not cricket, is it?
Exactly. So, question 1.
Yeah.
Listen very carefully. He's surviving on pure testosterone and adrenaline up there. And they don't come more manly than him, literally.
Peter Manley.
Bingo. Straight in with a correct answer on the first one. So you kind of get the gist of how this is going to work, Josh, yeah?
I do, yeah. The thing with Sid, though, his quotes are so unique
Yeah.
and so brilliant that it's very difficult to pin a particular player
to be honest,
down.
there were some brilliant ones, but I couldn't find the players that he was referring to. So,
As the youngest man around this table, Josh, do you have a good memory and a good knowledge of dear old Sid?
I mean, I started watching darts around about 2007, so he's still in his heyday, still doing some brilliant commentary.
Yeah.
So there'll be a few quotes that particularly stand out to me. I used to have that PDC darts game as well. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do,
Obviously
yeah.
with Sid Waddell's commentary on, so that was always memorable for me. But I'm sure there'll be a few that trip me up, don't worry.
Okay, well, it's a positive start. 1 out of 1 so far, Neil.
okay, so question 2. He's not cooked the goose, he's goosed the cook. So we're talking about cooking.
The only one I can think of.
If you could speak into the microphone, Josh,
Sorry.
it would help with that with our listeners.
Apologies, John. The only one I can think of really when it comes to cooking, unless I'm missing someone, is Dennis Ovens.
There we go. A little bit of logic applied, Josh. A little bit of logic.
Doesn't often happen, John. Treasure it.
Okay, it's a good start. 2 out of 2. Neil, we ready for question 3?
Here we go. He's balanced like a green stalk with a gammy leg. Who is he referring to? A green stalk.
Do you know what a stalk is?
I do know what a stalk is.
Just checking.
No, I don't know if the emphasis is on the green or
Green.
the stalk. Green. Well, the green. Yeah, but now that's the point. It could be. Well, it could be Robbie Green. It could be the Green Machine, Michael Van Gogh. You don't know. Can you repeat the quote again, Neil? Sorry.
He's balanced like a green stalk with a gammy leg.
Michael Van Gogh.
That is correct. Once again, the clue was in the question. I'll be honest with you, Neil. I think you're a bit too easy on him there. You really sort of highlighted the green for him. I think you should have just left him there. The clue was there for him to work out, and he should be left to his own devices to figure it out for himself, in my opinion.
Agreed, but there may be some that cause him a bit more difficulty later on.
Okay, so that I noticed that Josh has got his notebook out for this. I don't know if he's going to be doing any working. He's got 3 answers written.
Well, I'm
on
writing
his...
down the answers I've got, so I know not to repeat them. Really.
Okay, excellent. Well, who says that there might not be any repeats? I'm sure Sid Waddell, across the thousands upon thousands of games, came out with more than one sort of quota for different players. Didn't
Yeah, he certainly did. So here we go. Question 4. If he gets back in this, it will be the greatest comeback since Lazarus.
Now, that is one of Sid's very, very famous quotes.
Do you know the answer, John?
I do know the answer to this one because, as I said, it is one of Sid's most famous quotes. When dear old Sid left us and passed away, I remember a lot of obviously media outlets reporting on it and listing a lot of his most famous quotes, and this was one of them that was right at the very top of Sid's most famous quotes. Can you just read it again for us, please, Neil? Because Josh is struggling on this one.
If he gets back in this, it will be the greatest comeback since Lazarus.
I really don't know.
Lazarus.
Lazarus.
I'm going to have to push you for an answer on this, Josh.
It's not Cliff Lazarenko, is it?
Are you asking me, or is that your answer?
Well, that's my answer. I don't know any better.
Correct. Cliff Lazarenko. Again, the clue is in the question. Okay, so that's 4 out of 4. Is that right, Neil?
It is, yeah.
Okay, Josh, are you ready for... How are you finding these so far, by the way?
It's a good. It's difficult, but they're good questions. It's tough though.
Okay. Question 5, Neil. Are you ready?
Okay, so I think one of the easier ones. Question 5. She has torn down a tungsten iron curtain.
She's torn down a tungsten iron curtain. There's a limit to how many, I suppose, female players there'll be out there.
Sexist.
There aren't. I'm not sexist, John. There's not been many
was
female
joking.
players.
Okay, so tungsten iron curtain. She has torn down.
So we've nailed one thing. We know that we're looking for a female darts player.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Now we're looking at the sort of the other part of the question.
yeah, iron curtain. There's a couple it could be who I think have featured in the PDC, but I'm not quite sure that.
The clue is in the question.
The clue is massively in the question. There'll be people listening to this right now, Neil, on the download. I reckon they'll be absolutely shouting the answer at their various devices that they're listening on. For me, I'm gonna be honest with you. For me, this is one of the easiest ones.
Can you repeat the quote again?
Ugh. Okay, she has torn down a tungsten iron curtain.
Torn down. It's gonna have to be a guess. Dieter Hedman?
That is incorrect, Josh. That's. Do you know what the Iron Curtain is? Do you know what the term Iron Curtain refers to?
No.
Oh well, then that's the problem then.
What does it? And then I might.
The Iron Curtain refers to the Russian bloc, doesn't it?
Oh, Anastasia.
Yeah, of course.
That would have been my next one, but I thought, well, I don't know.
Well, that's incorrect, I'm afraid. So that's your first one wrong, Josh. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect you to stumble on one of the early ones.
That was almost question 1, to be honest.
Yeah. That's disappointing. Well, listen, at least every day's a school day, Josh. You've learned something.
I have indeed.
The Iron Curtain referring to the Russian bloc. So we move on and we'll teach you something else. Now, here we go.
Question 6. Again, very easy. For us, anyway. He's not Adonis, he's the Donis.
Steve Beaton.
Well done.
Almost arrogant with his response there.
Arrogant?
Fine line, confidence, arrogance.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so 6 questions we've had and he's got 5 right so far. Let's move on, Neil, please, to question number 7.
He's forgetting the undercoat, going straight to the gloss.
Kevin Painter.
Yeah, of course it is. Painting reference there. Very, very easy. That's another one right for Josh. Let's move on, Neil, please, to question number 8.
When Alexander of Macedonia was 33, he cried salt tears because there were no more worlds to conquer. He is only 27.
This is Bristow, isn't it?
Are you asking or telling?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. Probably one of Sid's most famous ever quotes, referencing dear old Eric Bristow. Yeah, top answer that one. Okay, let's move on to question number 9, please, Neil.
He comes from the valleys and he's chuffing like a choo-choo train.
He comes from the valleys.
Well, I think we can all assume he's Welsh.
No, I think John's thrown you a bit of a curveball.
Why? He is Welsh.
No, he's not.
Is he not?
No.
Oh, then why are we asking the question? I'm sure he was Welsh.
You gave me this question.
I thought.
I didn't think it was obvious from the question.
Hang
to be
on.
honest.
I don't know if.
He is Scottish.
But then that is a major curveball, then, isn't it? Why is Waddell saying he comes from the valleys?
Are you checking?
Yeah, I am. I'm on Wikipedia now.
Surely with your expertise, John, you wouldn't need to use
Well, I'm just
Wikipedia.
questioning now if it's a case of where he was born or where he used to live. This doesn't make for great radio, does it? I'm just
There was some classic quotes, but as I say, I couldn't sort of link them to a player. There was one that reminded me of John, something to do with Billy Bunter and the fridge. Don't ask me why that reminded me of John. Anyway,
no comment.
Right, well, I've just been on Wikipedia and it appears that I've embarrassed myself entirely. So, yeah, this is a bit of a tough one. I wouldn't have got that.
well, I've told him he's Scottish and he was a very good player.
I only
so-
picked that because of where it refers to. But okay,
Is it Gary Anderson, the Flying
are
Scotsman?
you asking or telling?
I'm trying to find who else Scottish. You got Thornton, Peter Wright, Jamie Harvey.
What you have to
Les
remember,
Wallace,
what you
I
have to
don't
remember
know.
with Sid Waddell, that Sid started his darts commentary career quite a long time ago. I'm talking early 80s.
The Scottish players I can think of. You got Jockey Wilson. You got Les Wallace.
I'm going to give you a helping hand and just let you know that it's not Gary Anderson. All right, It's not Gary Anderson. So think of another.
I don't think it'll be Thornton. Peter Wright, no. I don't think. You got Jamie Harvey, Les Wallace, Jockey Wilson. I'm going to go with another well-known Scot, Jockey Wilson.
I take my hat off to you there, Josh. Well done. Yeah, that was a tough one. When I sent you that one over, Neil, I just assumed.
I felt
I
obliged.
assumed the clue was in the question. He was Welsh.
Yeah,
or
I thought the Valleys.
at least born in Wales and then
As-
moved to Scotland afterwards.
As you'd done the hard work, I felt obliged to include it, but then there's lesson learnt for me there. Okay, question 10.
Yeah, this will be my last involvement in Challenge Josh going forward. Okay, here we go. Question 10.
He's not just an underdog, he's an under puppy. Now, what I want you to think about here, Josh, is 80s, underdog, World Championships.
Okay, thanks, Neil. The one that springs to mind is the 1983 World Final with Keith Deller. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Keith Deller's your answer, yeah?
Yep.
That's a great shout. I'm impressed by that. I wouldn't have got that.
Very good. There was another classic about Keith Deller as well, something to do with...
Was it Milky Bar Kid? Or?
No, it was something to do with needing another leg and Long John Silver.
Yeah, I remember reading that one as well. Okay, that's question 10 done with, isn't it? So let's move on to question 11.
Okay, question 11. I don't know what he's had for breakfast, but he's knocked the snap, crackle and pop out of Bristow.
Can you repeat that, Neil?
I don't know what he's had for breakfast, but he's knocked the snap, crackle and pop out of Bristow.
That's a tough one. That is a tough one.
Explain your thinking, Josh. What's going through your mind at the moment?
Well, I haven't really got any thinking in terms... I can't really gauge a lot from that, really. No name springs to mind, apart from obviously Bristow's rivals at the time. We've had Jockey Wilson. Whether it's another Jockey Wilson, I doubt it. We've had Keith Deller. We've had Cliff Lazarenko. I'm thinking maybe the likes of John Lowe, Bob Anderson, people who were rivaling Bristow at the time.
I noticed that you make eye contact with me as you say those names. I won't be giving you any acknowledgement on any of those names.
But no, I don't. Obviously, there's Phil Taylor as well. That's another one I haven't mentioned, which I don't know. Yeah, no name springs to mind from it.
Can we have an answer, please?
I'm going to guess Phil Taylor, just because he's had a good record against Bristow.
Ooh.
Yeah, that is correct. Good. Well done. I'm impressed with that.
So there's one wrong, 10 out of 11.
One wrong so far. He's done better than I thought he would up to this point.
He has done
Well,
really,
it's the
really
easiest one. Obviously, I didn't know the Iron Curtain, but if I'd have got that, I'd have...
Yeah. Okay, no, good. I'm impressed so far. So we've got 4 questions to go, Neil?
1, 2, 3, 4, yep.
Okay, let's have question number 12.
He is striding out like Alexander the Great, conquering the Persians. Same era.
I have to say, Neil, I thought you might have presented these in a Geordie accent just for a little bit of realism.
I thought about it earlier and I thought, I'm not going to embarrass myself.
No.
We could have hired a Geordie for the evening and
Yeah.
got them to read them out. Just reread the question for us, please, Neil.
He is striding out like Alexander the Great, conquering the Persians.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
This is very difficult. Yeah, I've got no real...
Any clue you've been provided with was era, so...
Yeah, era. It's the same era as the Tale of the Bristow.
Yeah, I've heard his name mentioned.
I've mentioned a lot of names. Oh, dear. I'm going to guess at John Lowe.
That is extraordinary. That is really well played, Josh.
Well, I think the clues are...
No, but even so, he could have pulled anyone's name from that era. That's. I don't know if it's impressive or if it's just bloody pot luck. I'm not sure, really.
Maybe a combination of both, but I'll take it.
Right, here we go. Unlucky for some. Question 13, please, Neil.
I like this one.
Oh, dear.
While he washed his socks by night.
Why? What on earth?
Isn't that some sort of religious hymn from Christmas? While shepherds,
It feels like it needs something else there.
Well, it's a play on the while shepherds watched their flocks at night, isn't it?
You tell me.
Yeah, who knows?
Right, so just to repeat it, while he washed his socks by night. He's had enough clues. He's out on his own.
Yeah, I think this is real stab in the dark stuff now, if I'm honest.
I think that's... Again, I think it will be very obvious when you hear the answer.
Okay.
Kirk Shepherd?
Yeah, do you know what? That totally went over my head. That's a great shout. That's a really good question, that one. Well done, Neil. I didn't give you that one. Well done. You've done a little bit of research on your own.
I have.
Excellent stuff. Well done. Josh, yeah, good. Really impressed with that. Well done. Well worked out. Okay, let's move on to the second from last question. This is question number 14.
I think he's got far too many right. And he'll probably get these two as well. Okay, so question 14. There'll be singing and swinging and Highland flinging all over the Highlands for this lad. There'll be singing and swinging and Highland flinging all over the Highlands for this lad.
Again, it suggests a Scottish theme. Tough one. It's a bit of a stabbing that I'm going to go down the Scottish route, but again, you've got a lot of names there. The likes of Jockey Wilson, we've already had him, so I'm guessing it won't be him, but we don't know.
Again,
for this lad,
no help from this side.
Yeah,
of
for
the
this
table.
lad suggests he was quite a young player at the time.
Yeah, that depends on what year he said it, though, doesn't it?
It does indeed. If
he said it in 1981, he's not such a young lad anymore, is he?
No, exactly.
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I don't know. I'm going to guess Gary Anderson.
Correct. Again, pulls an iron from the fire. Well done, Josh. So he's got wrong just the one so far.
He has.
Disappointing, Neil, if I'm honest.
I thought he'd struggle a lot more than he has.
Yeah. Okay, well let's see if he can get all the way through with just getting one wrong. Let's have the last question, Neil. Number 15, please.
He's dancing up there like Frank Lampard swivelling past Spaniards. He's dancing up there like Frank Lampard swivelling past Spaniards.
Right, thought process. Talk me through it, Josh. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking the fact it's Frank... I'm trying to think about England playing... Well, first of all, dancing.
Yeah.
Trying to think of a player on his walk on who maybe does a little bit of the dancing.
Right.
Trying to think of Frank Lampard when England last played Spain. I'm trying to think at that sort of era, what sort of time would that have been? Probably the mid to late 2000s. Neil's dancing in the background there, very off-putting.
He's got no rhythm, I know that much.
I'm paying no attention because...
There's not many players that dance on
there's
the
not.
stage.
There's not, but I'm just trying to think of the time. Well, obviously there's Dimitri van den Berg now, but that'll be too early for Sid. Sorry, too late even. I'm going to guess Dancing Devon Peterson.
Out of all the dancers you could have gone for, I'm really surprised you went for that one.
So this is what, our 7th episode?
Yeah.
And we've had interviews on 5 or 6 of those episodes.
Correct.
And we've had 2 interviews by one person.
Yes, we have, yeah.
And
Mr.
who's
Mardle.
that person?
Hawaii 501 Wayne Mardle is going to be very, very disappointed in you, Josh, and he's not going to come back on our show after
so
that.
sorry, Wayne. I'm sorry.
Friend of the show, but not a friend of Josh.
That was the only thing that was putting me off with the Peters, and the fact it was Frank Lampard dancing past.
This is Wayne Mardle, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Yeah,
sorry, Wayne.
Thanks, Wayne. We won't be having that on the show anymore, will we?
So despite recording a good score, you have just embarrassed yourself.
No, I think I'm very pleased with my score. There was a few fortunate guesses, but when you announced the theme, if you'd have offered me 13 out of 15, I'd have bitten your hand off.
Yeah, I think you've done okay. Then.
I do notice, Neil, there was one I did send you that you haven't included in the questions for this evening. Let's test him on it now, right? Little bonus question for you.
Oh, I don't know. I'm happy with my lot.
Sid Waddell once said,
Yep.
he is the plague from The Hague.
I was thinking, out of the 15, I was thinking we have not had a Raymond van Barneveld quote. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm sure you would have got that one very easily. Of course, that's Raymond van Barneveld, isn't it? Right, there's no bonus point available for that. That was just a bit of fun. So, 14 out of 15, Josh.
13. I'd like to claim.
Yeah, of course, you got the last one wrong, didn't you? So, 13 out of 15. How do you feel about that?
No, I'm very pleased. I thought it was a very good... I've got to give credit after the last time shambles. I thought that was a very, very good quiz.
Yeah, I'm quite impressed with your answers. Neil, impressed with that?
I am. I enjoyed it. To be honest, John, it was a good idea that you come up with. As I said, there were many other quotes that I'd like to attribute to players that I couldn't find. A couple of examples. This lad has more checkouts than Tesco's.
Always a good one.
He looks about as happy as a penguin in a microwave. That's like giving Dracula the keys to the blood bank.
That's probably the Count, I'd imagine, Ted Hankey.
I don't know. You got something about Ted Hankey?
Poor old Ted.
Well, he's called the Count, isn't he? So Dracula.
Is he competing at the moment, Ted? Is he?
He's still on the circuit, but he's not.
I don't think he's qualified for the world,
does
he? No. Any others, Neil?
No, I'm going to look up the. Oh no, it's like giving Billy Bunter the key to your pantry door. As I say, John, I don't know why that
could be me. I'll tell you the other one I sent you. Let me see if you can get this one. He looks like a hippo in a power shower.
Yeah, I saw that one.
No, I'm not going to answer that because I'm going to offend whoever I say. So I think we'll hold it there.
Let's move on. Okay, well, listen, that's a timely reminder of dear old Sid Waddell, who obviously we lost a few years ago, and his contribution to the world of darts, particularly in commentary, is sorely missed. We all miss Sid, and hopefully that's just reminded everyone of what a great talent he was, and some of the fantastic lines that he gave us. Anyway, listen, that's the end of Challenge Josh. 13 out of 15. Well done, Josh, and I look forward to the next episode.
Challenge Josh.
You're listening to Josh's Dartistry. Don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook by going to the Josh's Dartistry page. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry, or go to the website www.joshsdartistry.com for all the latest news and insight into the world of darts. You can also leave us a comment or a question via our voicemail box. Just call 07739 738 329 and leave us a message, and we may play it live on air. Now back to the show.
Right, let's bring you some up-to-date news.
In the news.
Okay, Josh, as we mentioned in the introduction, got 3 or 4 news items to discuss this evening. What you got for us first?
First of all, John, it's obviously the news that broke earlier in the week about Corey Cadby. The news that he'd withdrawn, unfortunately, from the Grand Slam of Darts. You may recall in the last episode we discussed him withdrawing from the World Series due to a broken arm. There's a little bit of confusion because he has been competing in a local event in Australia.
I noticed that he's been throwing, so it can't really be too much to do with that.
he's in a bit of discomfort, I still believe, but I'm not quite sure whether it's still his visa issues that have kind of resurfaced. But obviously, he's such a good player. He qualified for this by virtue of reaching the UK Open finals back in March, so it'll be great to see him back before the World Championships because he's earned his place there, and it'll be a real shame not to see him there. It's
a sad loss, really, for the tournaments that he's missing out on because, as we've mentioned on this show on more than one occasion, not only is he a fantastic talent, but he's a character as well, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's a brilliant player. He's controversial, but he's not scared of upsetting anyone, and I think it's a real loss. So hopefully he's back soon. Hopefully he's back for the Worlds because we saw Carl Anderson a couple of years ago miss out on the World Championships due to his visa problems. So hopefully the same doesn't happen to Corey.
Neil Cadby missing out on the Grand Slam. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's disappointing because I think going back a year or two, we saw him as possibly the next big thing. So he has played well in spells this year, and I think we want to see as much of him as possible, competing against the very best, because that's how he'll kick on and improve.
So, Josh, with Cadby out of that tournament, who's the replacement?
The replacement is actually Krzysztof Ratajski. Incredibly, despite having won 3 PDC Pro Tour titles this year, he wasn't actually scheduled to be in the Grand Slam because James Wade and Whitlock, both by reaching the European Championship final, automatically secured their places. But now Ratajski's back in qualification unless someone this weekend at the World Series reaches the final or wins it who hasn't already qualified. But the likes of Van Gerwen, Anderson, Wright, Barneveld, all the big players, apart from really Gurney and Lewis, are already in the Grand Slam. So it's unlikely that Ratajski will be knocked out.
So Ratajski almost getting a sort of late, call up off the bench to come and take part. I wonder what his odds are for a tournament win, Neil. Perhaps you can look that up for us a bit later on and let us know.
Yeah, I think he was 50-1.
Right.
From off the top of my head with Sporting Bet.
If he was to come through and win it, that'd be one hell of a story, wouldn't it? It'd almost be like when Denmark won the Euros in '92 or whenever it was.
He's in form, back-to-back Players' Championship victories. I think to win one is difficult, and then to go out and do it again the next day on the Sunday is a fabulous achievement. So, as I say, he's in form heading into these big tournaments that are coming up.
So yeah, Cadby's loss could be Ratajski's gain, but we'll keep an eye on Cadby moving forward, and hopefully whatever issues he is dealing with, hopefully he can get them sorted, and we'll see his return to the grand stage. Okay, Josh, what else have we got, buddy?
A couple of things really, John, on the BDO now. Obviously, we mentioned in our interview with Oche earlier about a 3-year deal with Eurosport, which is big news for the BDO. There's been a lot of confusion, obviously, about 65 days until the World, and there's still been no announcement over the venue or any TV coverage. But now the BDO will have the World Trophy, the World Masters, and the World Championships all televised on Eurosport, which is a massive boost for them. The World Masters was streamed this year, so to have TV coverage and on a very good channel like Eurosport is a real boost. And obviously, just interlinked with the World Championships for the BDO, obviously Wes Newton, we mentioned him as well earlier. He secured his qualification to the World Championship this year, almost with a little bit of fortune because there was no Asian qualifier in the BDO this year.
I heard about this, and someone was asking the question, whose fault was that, the BDO's or the region
I don't
itself?
think it was the fault with the BDO at all, but I'm glad for Wes because he's a little bit unfortunate. He was escalated into like a standby position after Andy Hamilton, another former PDC player, after he secured his qualification. But Adam Smith-Neal, when he won the World Masters he was an unknown quantity, and from him winning that actually knocked Wes Newton out of an automatic World Championship spot.
Right.
So he was in the standby position, obviously probably not expecting to make it, but with no Asian qualifier, we'll have Wes Newton competing at the Lakeside this year, which is really good news.
Neil, Eurosport, very well known obviously in this country and around the world as well. Good news.
It is massive company. I've been on our satellite television channels for decades now.
Yeah, long time.
I would say, and it's going to be a very interesting to see what the darts presentation is like. I'm fairly confident that with Eurosport being as
they're well established, aren't they? They know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's the word. As established as they are in producing professional sports coverage, I think it will be very good.
Josh, anything else for us?
Just a few little bits, John. Obviously, the BDO had the Northern Ireland Open last week. Just a little bit of news from that. Jim Williams, the Welshman, won the men's tournament, beating Francis Carragher in the final. Wes Newton, as we mentioned, got to the semis before he was beaten by Williams. And in the ladies section, Lorraine Winstanley's had a really good 2018. She defeated Anastasia Dobromyslova in the final. They're very very good friends, those two. So that was the news from the BDO. Northern
Is she the
Ireland
lady
Open.
from behind the Iron Curtain, Josh?
I believe she is, John. If only I'd known that 20 minutes ago. And just finally, we've got a little bit of news obviously coming from the World Series of Darts finals tonight. As we speak, Max Hopp has actually been knocked out by Dave Chisnell.
Oh.
But he'd been drafted in at the last minute. Unfortunately, Dawson Michel was taken ill.
Oh, dear.
As he was about to fly to Vienna for this World Series. Dawson performed really well in the US Masters.
Yeah.
That got him here to the World Series finals. But he was too ill to take his spot, so very unfortunate for Dawson. We wish him well soon.
Absolutely. Josh, any other news items for us?
No, that's all for this week, John.
We have got on in the background the World Series of Darts just on the television. Josh, talk us through some of the results we've seen so far this evening.
Well, as I mentioned, we had Raymond Smith beating Keegan Brown 6-3. Damien Heta edged out Mike Langendorf 6-5 in a deciding leg. Jamie Lewis really impressive in beating Dimitri van den Berg 6-2. Dave Chisnell, very good, beat Max Hopp 6-1, 2 ton plus checkouts. We've seen Carl Anderson beat Ian White 6-4. Gerwin Price eased past Royden Lamb 6-1. Royden averaged mid-70s, just didn't perform. And we've currently got Steve Beaton playing Darryl Gurney. Gurney's finished superbly so far and raced into a 4-0 lead, so it looks like Super Jim will win that one.
And then there's one more game to come after this, isn't there?
That is Ross Smith against the newly crowned European champion James Wade.
So there's your live and up-to-the-minute World Series of Darts report. And that concludes this week's news.
In the news.
Right then, we come to the final part of the show, as we do every week. We put out a tweet asking for your questions for our little Q&A section. And I like to call this section Josh's Twitter Chatter. And Colin Church, our, again, resident music maestro, has come up with a little jingle for us. So let's demo this one, shall we? See how this comes out. There we go. That's our new Q&A jingle, Josh's Twitter Chatter. What do you reckon, Josh?
Very impressed. Thanks for that, Colin.
Excellent stuff. We love a new jingle on the show, so thank you, Colin. Okay, let's have a look and see what questions have come in. I'm just looking on the Twitter feed. Let's do this one first, Josh. Excuse me. This comes from... Oh, no pressure here. This comes from the official Rob Cross fan page. And the question reads as follows. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you assess Rob's year so far? And why would you say that number that you have chosen? Josh, let's go over to you first.
Yeah, I saw that. I retweeted this question after I got it yesterday. It's generated quite a little bit of debate on the timeline, I must say, and some good responses. I'd have to give him a 7. I think a few others said this. A few said 6, a few said 8. I'd give him a solid 7. He's had a good year considering all the pressure that comes with being a world champion. People forget it's only his second full year on the PDC circuit.
Yeah.
Obviously, he did superbly well to win the world championships on debut, but there's a lot of pressure, a lot of scrutiny comes with being world champion. And also, it's the first time he's ever played in the Premier League and the World Series, so the travel demands a lot. He's a lot busier this year, so it's been difficult for him.
Just remind us how he did in the Premier League this year, Josh.
He did well. He came in the top 4, made the semi-finals. Came in 4th position but lost to Michael van Gerwen in the semi-finals.
Yeah.
He started off really poorly, lost his first 2 games, and a lot of people started questioning him, saying, is he a one-hit wonder, which is ludicrous, really. But he fought back really well. His only disappointment, really, will be his performances in some of the recent big majors. He got to the second round of the match play, lost to Darren Webster, lost in the Euros in the quarterfinals to Joe Cullen, lost first round of the Grand Prix to Steve Beaton. So that'll be his frustration. But he's won a Players' Championship event. He won the Brisbane Darts Masters, the World Series, beating Michael van Gerwen in the final. I think if you discount the fact, if you forget the fact he's a world champion, he's had a very good year, been consistent, and I think he's dealt with the pressure and the scrutiny really well. So I'll give him a 7.
Neil, same question to you. Score out of 10 for Rob Cross for his year, please.
9 out of 10.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, 2018. He's the 2018 world champion.
Fair.
Come from absolutely nowhere to win that world championship. As you say, he won the event in Brisbane and one of the Players' Championship events and has been fairly consistent. But the fact that he won the World Championship in 2018, and the question is about 2018, he gets 9 out of 10 from me.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I'll give him an 8. I'll go sit in the middle comfortably with you two. I don't think you can overlook the fact that he started the year winning the World Championship.
Yeah, but I think he meant I think the question meant how do you assess his season rather than the year
he
itself.
won the World Championship in, well, last time I checked the calendar, it was 2018, was it not?
He did, but I think he was asking us to see. I don't think people. Well, I certainly didn't interpret the question to include his World Championship title because I think everyone's score would be very different if that was the case. But there
Indeed.
Well, listen, it's a game of opinions. Just to keep you updated, Daryl Gurney has just beaten Steve Beaton. It is a 6-0 whitewash. So excellent performance from Daryl, not so much from Steve, unfortunately. And we'll also have our eye on the Smith-Wade game. So, yeah, there's our scores for Rob's year. Anything ranging between 7, 8 and 9. I think that represents a pretty good year for Rob. And I only see him taking that form and what he's done into not just next year, but I think he's going to be around for quite a long time to come, is Rob. Okay, let's have a look at the next question. This comes in from @PedroK1 on Twitter, and they ask, who would you have as your PDC newcomer of the year? I have mine. What's yours? We'll come on to what they suggested as their newcomer of the year. But Josh, let's go to you first.
For me, there can only really be one man, John, and that is Krzysztof Ratajski. Despite the fact he hasn't won his PDC Tour card this year, which is incredible really considering his success at the World Masters last year and how he's done this year, but to win 3 Pro Tour titles, despite not holding a tour card, he's played in 10 Pro Tour events this year and won 3 of them. It's an incredible return. He's got the pedigree, as we saw at the BDO World Masters last year. He's dangerous on the European Tour, and I think he's one that the Seeds will be looking to avoid at the World Championship this year. He's a quality player.
Neil, same question to you. PDC newcomer.
Yeah, very difficult to argue with Josh, to be honest. So same answer from me.
Yeah, I would go the same. Ratajski as well. Very impressive. Peter himself, or Pedro as he calls himself on Twitter, he's gone Noppert or Ratajski for me. Both done brilliantly, especially without a tour card. Josh, Noppert has been thrown into the hat there. Thoughts?
Yeah, Danny Noppert's had a very good year as well. He joined after reaching the Lakeside final. Danny's a class player. We've known that for a long while. He's maybe struggled in the early stages to establish himself, but he reached a Players' Championship final just before the World Grand Prix in Dublin. Reached a European Tour semi-final. I think he's only going to go and improve from here.
Okay, excellent. @Dotbox24, that's David O'Leary on Twitter. He asks, what do the PDC need to do to get the crowds back for the Grand Prix in Dublin? Every year the crowd looks to be getting smaller. Maybe a change of venue is needed. Now, this is something, Neil, that we have touched on in previous episodes. Give me your thoughts.
As you say, I think possibly in our very first episode we had someone asked the question about the venue. I think the issue is with transport links to the venue and the difficulty people have in getting there. So if the crowds are dwindling, it probably does need to be looked at.
And are we looking at a venue outside of Dublin or a different country? Or
Dublin's a fantastic city.
Yeah.
And I've been there and I had a great weekend. So,
did you remember much of it?
No, I don't. I remember the Guinness factory, but not much after. So keep it in Dublin, but maybe just look at what the viable alternatives are.
Josh, any thoughts on that?
I think it's difficult. Obviously, the World Grand Prix is a week-long tournament. You have a lot of sessions on a Monday night, a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night. It's always going to be difficult to attract huge crowds, especially when, like we mentioned, the transport links aren't the best to the venue. But in fairness, the crowds for the semi-finals and the finals on Friday and Saturday night were superb. The atmosphere was really good. So I don't think it's an issue with the atmosphere. It's more obviously the crowds and being able to get to the venue. And obviously the accessibility. Obviously a lot of the sessions at the Grand Prix do end quite late. So getting home, getting back to wherever they need to be can be a bit of an issue.
I think it's difficult because there aren't many competitions where, when you look at the earlier rounds of the tournament, I mean, the big one is obviously to compare it to Ali Pali, and 9 times out of 10 at Ali Pali, it doesn't matter what round you're in, it's always a full house, it's always absolutely packed, there's a great atmosphere, the crowd are in a good mood, and a bang up for a good night out. That's quite difficult, though, to always replicate in tournaments outside of the Worlds, Josh.
Exactly, and obviously a lot of the tournaments we have now, like the World Series, for example, are 3-day events on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday, so they're weekend-based. So it's easy to attain bigger crowds when it's a weekend.
Okay, let's move it on then. Paul McKenna I don't know if that's the world famous hypnotist. I don't think it is. But Paul McKenna, 89 on Twitter, he's been in contact and he's asked the following. BDO's deal with Eurosport. What impact can it have on the BDO as a whole? It was in an obvious decline. The Masters crowd alone showed that. But can this deal pull it back to what it once was? I know we've touched on this a little bit earlier, Neil, but thoughts on that?
I think it, as we said earlier, there's great potential with the reputation that Eurosport has, and again, I think it it takes it more mainstream. We're going to have to see. You know, the Lakeside we've seen over recent years. I think last year was BBC and
Channel 4
or
last
Channel
year.
4 and BT Sport.
Yeah.
Which in themselves are big channels. It's watch this space for me. Yes, it seems positive. It's a long-term, or a 3-year deal. So hopefully it will send it back in the right direction.
My only concern is, I mean, obviously Eurosport got a very, very good track record. I don't have any doubts in the production. My concern is the BDO themselves. I mean, it's all very well tying up the deal with Eurosport, which is there to be applauded for, and the people in charge there, well done. The criticism of the BDO has often been the promotion of their tournaments, obviously the crowds, ticket prices. Now, I'm going to be honest, I have been on the website. I've looked at some of the ticket prices. Now, obviously, there is tiered pricing with regards to where you're sat and also whether it's what round it is you're attending. They're quite expensive. A Tuesday night session in one of the early rounds, I think, was going for about 30 quid. And then it starts to creep, and you're only looking like Wednesdays and Thursdays starting to creep up into the 40s, 50s, and the 60s. And then when you're looking at semi-finals and finals, it's getting into the hundreds. I think they're quite expensive tickets.
Yeah, I mean, they are. I don't disagree with you there, but what they are doing, I'm not sure if you're aware, I read on Facebook the other day that they're giving away free tickets to darts counties.
To the counties, yeah, I read
for the
that.
afternoon sessions, which is a real good move, especially if there's youngsters who are free and can go along to sample the atmosphere at the lakeside. So that's a very positive move. Listen, I think we often criticise the BDO for, after the World Masters, we had no live TV coverage. It was on a stream, which was good quality, admittedly. But to have achieved this deal, I think it's a very positive move. Since Jacqueline came in as chairman, I think there's been a lot of progress made. So hopefully it's a case of onwards and upwards for the BDO.
Okay, all good answers, and I look forward to seeing how that pans out for the BDO. Let's move back to the Twitter questions. At Irish Darts Fan, friend of the show, he's been in touch and he says, call it now, world champion and dark horse for a run. Let's throw this open to Josh.
World champion. I'm going to say Raymond van Barneveld.
Raymond van Barneveld.
Listen, I've got to back him. He needs a big, big run in a tournament to qualify for the Premier League this year, so I'm going to back him. He's reached semi-finals in 4 of the last 6 years. Admittedly, you know, it's a big shout.
It's a massive shout.
It's a big shout, but I've got to back him. I can't back against him. I think.
Can we get Paul McKenna on here, because someone needs to be sent to sleep, I think.
I think outsiders, you've got a lot of outsiders. Ratashki, we've mentioned, he's a real contender if he has a good first round draw. Some of the youngsters we've seen tonight, Jamie Lewis reached the semi-finals here last year, Dimitri van den Burr. I like Joe Cullen's chances. I think he's had a really good year, lost in the semis of the European Championships, which was a big blow for him. I think Adrian Lewis as well is always a real contender at the Worlds. He's been a bit unlucky in recent TV events, but he's coming into form. But to be fair, I think Anderson, if I had to... I know I've said Barney, I'm going to stick with Barney, but I think if I had to... I think Van Gerwen could struggle this year to win the Worlds. Just a hunch. I think because... he's won 2 world titles, but he's dominated the sport for the last 4 or 5 years, and I think there's so much pressure on him come the Worlds to translate that dominance into a World Championship title, and sometimes it can be a little bit of a weight on his shoulders, and I think someone like Gary Anderson is probably the form player of the year, so I've mentioned a lot of people there, haven't I?
You're trying to cover all bases there, I think.
That's world rankings 1 to 36 covered.
Nice one, Josh. Okay, me personally, my world champion pick is going to be Gary Anderson. Probably no surprises there, other than obviously not picking MVG, but I just fancy Gary to go all the way. My dark horse for the Worlds, And it seems silly, really, to call him a bit of a dark horse because he's got absolute bags of experience. Is a European Championship winner, James Wade. I think he's peaking at the right time. I think he's coming into a bit of form. He has got the experience in and around the big stage. And my little outside for a run in the Worlds is James Wade. Neil?
My winner again will be Gary Anderson. My dark horse will be Raymond van Barneveld.
Oh, well done, Neil.
And why is your dark horse Raymond van Barneveld?
Because he does well at the World Championships. He is capable of winning the very big matches. My only doubt is, for such a long tournament that requires a lot of concentration and long matches, when it gets to the latter stages, is whether he's got the stamina to see it through. But he's performed consistently well in the tournament over the last few years. I say he's my outsider. He's about 50-1, so that is an outside punt. So for me, Raymond van Barneveld.
I should add it with Barney. It does depend on the draw as well, because he's around, I think, 14th or 15th in the world.
But
I'm
we've
saying,
seen him take out Van Gerwen at the Worlds.
Yeah, but obviously he'll be wanting to avoid Michael Van Gerwen. He won't want to drop to 16th in that 16th position. I think you want to avoid Van Gerwen and Anderson, really. Anderson's going to be 4th seed unless something extraordinary happens in the next few weeks, and Van Gerwen's going to be number 1.
Listen, you can talk about avoiding players all you want. Ric Flair once said, to be the man, you have to beat the man.
No, look, I get that, John, I get that. But Van Gerwen and Anderson on the same side of the draw, I think in my opinion, they're the best 2 players in the world at the moment, and they're the 2 you want to avoid. So if he can get onto the other side of the draw, there's every chance. But there's so many good players at the Worlds. They all want to perform, they all want to win it, so who knows?
Just on that, at Irish Darts Fan and Tom Morrissey on Twitter, they had a little debate when that question was asked. And Tom Morrissey said, I forgot about Whitlock, he could go far, maybe the semi. An Irish Darts fan said, I've grown to like Whitlock a lot, maybe another final appearance 9 years later, exclamation mark. Josh, what do you make of Whitlock's chances in the Worlds?
To be fair to Simon, I mean, a lot of people questioned his Premier League inclusion this year, and so did I actually, but he tailed off towards the end of the season, but he's been quite consistent in the ranking majors. He got to the final of the European Championships. He's been consistent on the floor and on TV. He's a very capable player, but I just think this player is probably a little bit better, who's able to produce maybe the spectacular darts that Simon's not capable of.
He's never got back to the level of the year that when he did make it to the final, because he was outstanding.
Who did he lose to that year, Neil?
Well, it wasn't Raymond van Barneveld.
No, it wasn't.
It was Phil Taylor.
Yes, it was.
He beat Raymond actually in the semi 6-5. It was a
great,
thriller.
but he played very, very well.
His combination finishing was unbelievable. The amount of big
170s and
the amount of 10 plus finishes. It might have even been a record for the amount taken out.
I don't think he's ever really recreated that form.
No, he's done it in patches, but not consistently over a tournament like that.
Okay, well, I hope that's answered your question. I think we've got one more question to come in, and that is via our voicemail box. Don't forget, you can always give us a ring on 07739 738 329 and leave us a question there. And this one comes in from our friend of the show, Jordan.
My question today is, who is the better darts player, and in addition to that, who is better cricketer? Cheers.
Okay, well, there's Jordan laying the gauntlet down, probably stirring the pot, if you ask me, but I think he was talking about us when he asked who is the better darts player, and he also asked who is the better cricketer. This is going to cause a row. Anyway, let's look at the first part of his question. Who is the best darts player?
We have an answer for that.
What's the answer, Neil?
Well, refer to Lord of the Board. Next.
Lord of the Board is one facet of darts. Lord of the Board is not what you have to do when you step up to play a game, whether it's in a pub or on the stage.
So the last time we played darts in a pub, I won.
Yeah, me and Neil got to the final. Neil did beat me, I have to say, on that occasion. So I listen, we can't argue with the form guide. The last time we played, Neil won, so I think we have to accept defeat on that one, John.
I've not had 9 180s. I've not had one 180, but you know.
I'm a
mercurial talent, Neil.
I'm gonna hold my hands up and confess that I am the worst darts player around the table. I do all right. I hold my own, but I don't think I've thrown as many darts in my lifetime as you two perhaps have. So I'm going to let you two fight it out.
You know, I think I've got to concede defeat after my shambolic effort really early at the Lord of the Board. I can't then now be arguing my case. But I think if away from the big TV cameras, I think I've got a chance.
Okay, Neil, Josh and I are happy to accept that around this table you are the better darts player. That's fine. However, there was a second part to Jordan's question. Jordan obviously knows that we play cricket. I think Oche plays a bit of cricket as well, doesn't he?
I think he does, yeah. I'm not sure what he does, whether he's a bowler or a batsman, but he does play a bit of cricket, I think.
So Neil and Josh and I, we all play for Hoddesdon Cricket Club 4th team, commonly referred to as Shoddy. And Jordan wants to know who is the best cricketer. I'm going to ask Josh first.
Well, it's a tough one, John. I mean, we've all got different talents, I think.
Indeed.
I mean, you're more of a you're a wicket keeper.
I am.
Neil's more of a batsman.
Yeah, okay.
And I'd like to say I'm a bit of an all-rounder, really.
Right, okay. So the question is, who's the better cricketer?
Me.
Neil.
I'm the most talented. Granted, I didn't have the best of seasons, but when you bat second and you've spent the whole first innings retrieving the ball from the boundary off his bowling...
You've had a poor year,
Yeah,
it has to be said. You've had a poor year.
Hmm?
How many wickets did you take this year?
Well, I probably only bowled once or twice. One of those was with a torn calf muscle.
I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I took wickets this year at crucial times. I've kept wicket on a number of occasions, not least to mention the final game of the season when we secured the league title. Drazy is obviously our regular wicket-keeper, but when Drazy's not been available, he stepped up and I've stepped up, and put the gloves on and kept. I've also kept for the threes this year. And also, guys, I'm not going to lie, round the table, I've got first-team experience.
Yeah. And you also bowled the longest over I've ever experienced.
I had an off day that day, and that over was, it wasn't great. But I think across, a longer period of time, I think I'm a better bowler than you, Neil. I'm definitely a better wicket keeper. I think you're a better batsman than me, but on the whole, I think I've got more pedigree and I'm a better cricketer than you.
Did Jordan give his opinion?
No, Jordan didn't leave his opinion. Jordan probably thinks he's better than all three of us, to be fair. Josh, what do you think of that?
I don't want to get into an argument about it, really. I mean, as a former captain, I think I have to try and support all my squad. And
unlike you to sit on the fence, Josh.
I think the stats speak for himself, really. I don't think we need to comment any further.
Okay, something tells me we're not going to get an agreement and a final answer here, but that's hopefully Jordan giving you a little insight into where we feel we are with our cricket inabilities.
I did average 57 with a bat this year.
Let's move it on. Josh, do we have any more questions?
No, I believe that's all for this episode, John.
Okay, well that concludes this week's Josh's Twitter chatter. Right then, folks, well, that brings us neatly to the end of the show. I'm just noticing as I glance across at the corner of my eye that James Wade is currently beating Ross Smith 3-2, but Smith does have darts in hand, so looking pretty even at the moment. Josh, do you fancy Wade to take this, or it's looking quite tight?
Yeah, I do. I think James is quite experienced in tight situations. We saw that at the Euros when he won 2 last leg deciders. I'd expect him to win this one, and then he could meet Mensur Suljovic, the home favourite, in the second round if he does progress.
Next episode, I will be unearthing our predictions, because if you remember in episode 6, I did ask for your predictions for the World Series of Darts winner. And I also asked you for your winner of the Grand Slam. So obviously, hopefully, by the time we record the next episode, we might have the answers to those 2 questions. We'll also be having a look on Twitter to see your answers. Don't forget, you can still send us your answers. Who you think is going to win the World Series of Darts and the Grand Slam? If you manage to predict both correctly, then we will be sending you a prize. I think we're going to be sending a Josh's Dartistry mug. We've got a few of those left in the cupboard. And in the event of a tie, we'll put all the correct answers into a hat and we will pull one out at random. So don't forget that. Don't forget to get involved in Lord of the Board. We can set up a little recording for you. So if you want to have an attempt on that, do get in touch. Contact us the usual ways at Josh's Dartistry, or check us out on Facebook, or log on to www.joshsdartistry.com. Don't forget, you can download the podcast podcast. For those of you on iTunes who use Apple Podcasts, you can download the podcast from there. You can also check us out on our YouTube. Josh's Dartistry has a YouTube page where we always upload a video version of the podcast. Neil, Android users, where can they find us?
On Stitcher.
On the Stitcher app. So if you're an Android user, get onto the Stitcher app and you can download the latest episode from there. Okay, gentlemen, anything further to add?
No, that's all from me this week, John.
Lovely stuff. Well, thank you both for your time. Always good to see you and get round the table and discuss all things darts. Have a good couple of weeks. Josh, don't work too hard.
I'll try, John, I'll try. Grand Slam coming up, looking forward to that one.
Neil, best of luck in your travels to India.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully you might be able to catch some Premier League football out there and keep up to date with the darts as well.
Yep, big sports fans out there. Great coverage on the TV. So when I get the opportunity, because obviously I'll be very, very busy at work, I'll be taking in whatever sport I can.
Okay, keep your eyes on Twitter. We'll let you know when we're recording again. In the meantime, I normally play us out with the Josh's Dartistry podcast main theme tune. This time around, I'm going to play you a slightly alternative theme tune that Colin Church has written for us. It's called Shanghai. It's a bit of a remix on some stuff he's done for us before, but I just thought it'd be nice to play us out with this. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Stay in touch, and we'll see you next time.